Most red pill men are still slaves to their gynocentric programming. They still believe that a long-term relationship with the right woman can bring them happiness. So in this video, I'm going to prove that that is just a fairy tale, keeping you enslaved to a society that hates you.
Lord have mercy. We must stay focused, brothers. We must stay focused.
You may have taken the red pill, but if you still desire a long-term relationship and you think that the problem is finding and securing that rare, high-quality woman that is capable of being a loving and supportive partner, then you haven't actually swallowed it.
What did you say, nigga?
You've stuck it under your tongue so you can open your mouth and fool other men into thinking you're red-pilled, into thinking you're awake to female nature. Well, you don't fool me, because the fact is, you still believe the same fairy story every blue-pilled simp believes.
Please! Please! No!
Yes!
The truth is, you're not fully red-pilled until you go MGTOW.
What the hell did you just say?
Now, MGTOW doesn't necessarily mean MGTOW monk. You can be MGTOW and still have sex with women.
Wait, what did you say?
MGTOW means that you are free of your gynocentric programming that makes you believe that your value, sense of identity, and happiness as a man depend on you being able to get, fuck, and keep a woman you are sexually attracted to. As long as you believe you're not a real man unless you can get and fuck and keep an attractive woman, and as long as you believe that a long-term relationship with an attractive woman can bring you peace or happiness or fulfillment, you are at best pink-pilled.
Daniel!
You're definitely not red-pilled.
Are you done? Are you done?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Does that piss you off? Are you triggered? Good. Now watch this and tell me in the comments why I'm wrong. And please bear in mind, what you're about to see applies equally to long-term relationships and marriages. The only difference is you can leave a long-term relationship, at least in some states, and not be divorce raped.
Think about this honestly. What happens to most men after marriage? Their friend groups shrink or disappear entirely. Their hobbies become selfish unless they serve the family unit. Their free time gets absorbed into household management and family obligations. Their money stops being their money and becomes our money, with the woman typically controlling how it gets spent. This isn't happening by accident, it's happening by design. Women intuitively understand that a man's value to the family unit increases when his options outside that unit decrease. The fewer alternatives he has, the more resources he'll dedicate to maintaining the relationship. So piece by piece, choice by choice, his independent life gets dismantled until he's psychologically and economically trapped. The genius of this system is that it uses the man's own values against him. His desire to be a good husband, a reliable provider, a loving father, these noble impulses become the very chains that bind him. He collaborates in his own imprisonment because resistance feels selfish and irresponsible. Carl Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But for married men, the most terrifying thing is to recognize how completely they've been domesticated. Look at the language we use. Ball and chain, getting hitched, taking the plunge. Even our casual expressions reveal an unconscious awareness that marriage represents a loss of freedom, not a gain of partnership." But here's where it gets really dark. The system doesn't just exploit men, it's designed to make them grateful for the exploitation. The concept of happy wife, happy life isn't folk wisdom. It's psychological programming that trains men to prioritize a woman's emotional state over their own needs, desires, and well-being. This creates a fundamental power imbalance where one person's happiness becomes the primary goal, while the other person's happiness becomes conditional on achieving that goal. It's not partnership, it's servitude with better marketing. Schopenhauer observed that a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. Marriage systematically eliminates the solitude and independence that allow men to maintain their authentic identity. They gradually become what their wife needs them to be rather than who they actually are. The transformation happens so slowly that most men don't notice until it's complete. They start making small compromises, skipping Guy's night to keep the peace, choosing her preferred restaurant to avoid conflict, deferring to her judgment on social plans. Each compromise seems reasonable in isolation, but collectively they represent a complete surrender of personal agency. Meanwhile, women's behaviour in marriage follows a predictable pattern that reveals the underlying biological programming. During the courtship phase, they maximise their appeal. Frequent sex, shared interests, minimal demands, maximum agreeability. After securing commitment, the dynamic gradually reverses. Sex becomes a reward for good behaviour rather than an expression of desire. Shared interests become irrelevant if they don't serve family goals. Demands increase while agreeability decreases. The woman who was once eager to please becomes entitled to be pleased. This isn't conscious manipulation, it's evolutionary programming. Women are biologically wired to secure resources and commitment, then optimize the arrangement for maximum benefit. The man who doesn't understand this programming becomes its victim. Here's the brutal reality that most men refuse to accept. Your wife's love is fundamentally conditional. It's based on your utility, not your intrinsic worth. The moment you stop providing value, whether through income loss, health problems, or simply becoming too familiar, that love begins to evaporate. Divorce statistics prove this point. Women initiate 70 to 80% of divorces, and they do it when the cost-benefit analysis of the marriage shifts in their favour. They don't leave because they're unhappy. They leave because they can get better terms elsewhere, or have extracted maximum value from the current arrangement. The family court system completes the exploitation by ensuring that even divorce doesn't free the man from his resource extraction obligations. Alimony, child support, and asset division guarantee that he continues paying for a family structure he can no longer access or benefit from. But here's where the situation becomes truly psychological warfare. Modern marriage doesn't just exploit men economically, it destroys them psychologically by attacking their fundamental sense of identity and purpose. The married man learns that his thoughts, feelings, and desires matter less than maintaining domestic harmony. His role becomes reactive rather than proactive. He exists to solve problems, provide solutions, and absorb emotional burdens. This creates what psychologists call learned helplessness, a condition where repeated exposure to uncontrollable stress causes people to stop trying to escape, even when escape becomes possible. The married man stops asserting his needs because experience has taught him that resistance only creates more problems. He develops what I call domestic Stockholm syndrome, identifying with his captor's goals and defending the system that exploits him.
Can you say that again? Just the way you said it.
Identifying with his captor's goals and defending the system that exploits him.
Keeping you enslaved to a society that hates you.
I told you so.
He tells himself that sacrifice equals love, that his discomfort is selfish, that real men put family first no matter the personal cost. The most insidious part of this programming is how it's reinforced by society. Media celebrates the family man who sacrifices everything for his wife and children. Religion teaches that selflessness is virtue, and that men should love their wives as Christ loved the church, through complete self-sacrifice. Even other men reinforce this programming. Married men can't admit the reality of their situation without acknowledging their own psychological defeat, so they perpetuate the myth that marriage is partnership while living the reality that it's servitude.
This ad is for my red-pilled brothers who are awake to the fact that they live in a world that hates men, but are pleasantly surprised to hear someone say it out loud. Well, despite the fact that men are routinely demonized, denigrated, discriminated against, divorced, raped, shamed, blamed, bullied, and scapegoated for all the ills of society,
correct. Thank you.
there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because there are people who do care about the pain, suffering, and injustices suffered by men just for being men.
We don't believe you. We don't believe you.
Those people are red-pilled men who have suffered the same injustices as you, but have freed themselves from the pain that comes from unending self-sacrifice and service to a gynocentric society that uses men as tools and then discards them once they have nothing left to give. These red-pilled men have freed themselves by going their own way, the meaningful and purposeful way, the fulfilling and self-actualizing way. Click the link to learn more.
The tragedy isn't that women exploit these dynamics, it's that men are so unprepared for them. Society teaches men to be providers and protectors, without teaching them to protect themselves from the very people they're providing for. Here's what no one tells young men about marriage. The moment you make a woman your primary source of happiness, validation, and meaning, you've already lost. You've handed over your psychological sovereignty to someone whose biological programming prioritizes her needs over yours.
Can you say that again? Just the way you said it.
The moment you make a woman your primary source of happiness, validation, and meaning, you've already lost. You've handed over your psychological sovereignty to someone whose biological programming prioritizes her needs over yours.
Now listen! That's called motherfucking bars, nigga! You know nothing about that!
This doesn't make women evil, it makes them female.
He is the one.
Their behavior follows predictable patterns because those patterns worked for millions of years of human evolution. The women who could successfully extract resources from men reproduced more successfully than those who couldn't. But evolution didn't prepare women to care about men's psychological well-being or individual fulfillment. It prepared them to secure survival and reproductive advantage. Modern marriage gives them legal and social tools to pursue these goals with unprecedented efficiency. The man who understands this reality stops taking female behavior personally and starts responding strategically.
You're goddamn right.
Leave me alone, please leave me alone. Leave me alone, please leave me alone. Leave me alone, please leave me alone.
He recognizes that marriage isn't about love, it's about leverage, and the person with more options always has more leverage. Schopenhauer wrote, "All satisfaction, or what is commonly called happiness, is really and essentially always negative only and never positive." He understood that true contentment comes not from getting what you want from others, but from not needing anything from others to feel complete. This principle destroys the fundamental premise of modern marriage, that happiness comes from partnership and shared life goals. The man who needs marriage to feel fulfilled has already surrendered his power.
I told you so.
The man who views marriage as optional maintains his sovereignty.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
Now, it's the first wrong thing he's said in about 10 minutes, so I'll totally give him a pass. But I have to point out, it's not the man that sees marriage as optional that retains his sovereignty. It's the man that sees marriage as self-castration that retains his sovereignty. Marriage is not an option in the West for any man under any circumstances, ever. Let's get that straight. Moving on.
But here's where most men make their fatal error. They believe they can negotiate or earn their way out of these dynamics through better behavior. They think if they just communicate more effectively, provide more resources, or become more attractive, the fundamental power structure will change in their favor. This is like trying to negotiate with gravity. You're not dealing with conscious choices. You're dealing with biological imperatives that operate below the level of awareness. Women don't choose to optimize their relationships for maximum benefit, any more than men choose to find young, fertile women attractive. The only winning move is not to play by rules that guarantee your defeat.
Leave me alone, please leave me alone. 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 Kado jaake mukna hai 10 lakh don. Leave me alone, please leave me alone.
Here's the dark secret that successful men understand but never publicly acknowledge.
fuck off. I've had at least 4 YouTube channels where I do nothing but publicly acknowledge it. The problem isn't men being prepared to publicly acknowledge the truth, that once you commit to a woman, you become an object, a tool to be used, a host to her parasite. The problem is that the culture at large and the social media platforms, including this one, don't want that message reaching younger men, because society will collapse as it's collapsing, as more and more men realize that the game is rigged. And not only does society not do anything to support men, it actively hates men. It actively wants to destroy men. And it uses women as a proxy, as a puppet to do that. And the reason for that is that the people who run society, the central banking interests, as I'm always telling y'all, are
the people Kanye proved you can't criticize.
And they see these Jewish supremacists, because that is what Zionism is. Zionism is Jewish supremacy. And they believe in the biblical story that they are the chosen people. And they believe in the biblical prophecies that at the end of days, all nations will be destroyed and the rest of the human race will become their slaves. And pretty much everything that's happened in the world for the last 150 years, from the creation of Marxism and Zionism as a political force, the First World War, the Russian Revolution, the Second World War, the Kennedy assassination, 9/11, COVID, the Great Reset, all of it is to fulfill that prophecy. The Kalergi Plan, the Great Replacement, mass immigration, feminism, all of it is obviously targeted at destroying European and Western nations, both by mass immigration and outbreeding white people, and by turning our society into a gynocracy which pedestalizes women and women's needs and women's wants and women's demands, and completely demonizes and discriminates against men's needs and men's wants and men's demands, because strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. So if you want to collapse society so that your ethnic group of people become the kings of the world, you want to make men weak. That is what the war on men is all about, obviously. And so men like myself and others who publicly acknowledge the reality, marriage and long-term relationships are a gynocentric meat grinder that uses men to support women in order to crush men and make men weak and ballless, and not pursue their purpose, not become great. Those of us who publicly acknowledge that are censored. I've had 4 YouTube channels deleted, 4 in the last 3 years. I've had numerous videos blocked and warnings and what have you. It's not that men who get it don't publicly acknowledge it. It's that it is one of the most censored things you can possibly talk about. The only thing that is more censored is discussion of sticking needles into people's arms or forcing people to have needles stuck into their arms by creating a, I won't even say the word just in case this gets blocked, but you know what I mean. That needle in the arm thing that was the whole point of what happened in 2020. I've had videos and channels removed because I talked about factual things about that. So that is something that you're not allowed to talk about. And You are allowed to talk about Jewish supremacy and Zionism. You're just not allowed to talk about it in the context of, what I'm talking about here. Got to be careful. Moving on.
The moment you become indispensable to a woman's lifestyle, you become dispensable as a person. She stops seeing you as an individual with needs, desires, and dreams. You become a function, provider, protector, problem solver, emotional absorber. This functional relationship might look like marriage from the outside, but it's actually sophisticated slavery with occasional sexual benefits. The man provides labor and resources while the woman manages the household and controls access to affection. It's efficient, but it's not partnership. The psychological toll of this arrangement explains why married men die younger, have higher rates of depression, and often seem like shadows of their former selves. They're not suffering from normal life stress. They're suffering from chronic psychological exploitation disguised as love. But society won't acknowledge this reality because the entire economic system depends on men's willingness to sacrifice their individual fulfillment for family obligations. The man who prioritizes his own happiness over family duty threatens the social order that requires male sacrifice to function.
So, as I was saying, it's a fairy tale to think that you can get happiness or fulfillment or peace through a long-term relationship. And it is gynocentric programming, conditioning from birth by the culture, your mother, your sisters, your female teachers, that makes you believe that your value as a man is dependent on your relationship with women. In other words, do you have a woman that lets you fuck her regularly? Because if you don't, if you can't get and keep a woman, there's something wrong with you. That is gynocentric programming. So all these guys, all these supposedly red pill guys who are actually pink pilled.
Damn.
For example, the black pill guys that are completely obsessed with looks maxing, because for them, women only go for looks, which is wrong anyway, but even if it were right, to then obsess about looks maxing to get a woman ignores the fact that that is negotiating with gravity, like the guy said. Why do you want to get a parasite?
You actually this stupid.
That just wants to use you and pretends to love you at the beginning to get you hooked and committed and then just sucks the life out of you. Why do you want to looks max to get that? It's not even pink pill. Black pillers are actually simps. They're blue pill because they're totally obsessed with getting women, which is what simps are. Or if you're a guy who's learning game, cold approach, following one of these online dating gurus, you're a blue-pilled simp because you're spending all this time and money learning to acquire a parasite.
You were literally too stupid to insult.
You fucking idiot. You're negotiating with gravity. You think as long as you can get a woman, you'll be able to game her and have a relationship. But it's all programming. It's all working on your core wound of unworthiness and not receiving unconditional mother love. And so that allows you to be exploited and manipulated by the culture and by women into believing that if you can just get one of the millions of hot, attractive, sexy women in the world, if you can just get her, you'll figure out a way to make the relationship work and you'll be happy. It's a fucking fairy story.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
He's good.
In the heat of battle, he don't miss.
No.
In the heat of controversy, he don't miss.
No.
So please let me know in the comments how I'm wrong. Please let me know how looks maxing and gaming and relationship counseling are going to get you anything other than misery. Please let me know how MGTOW is not obviously the only winning move in a rigged dating game and a rigged relationship game and a rigged society. Please let me know how MGTOW is not the truth and MGTOW is not the answer in the comments, please. And if you are intelligent and have eyes in front of a functioning brain and you can see the obvious truth that I have outlined in this video, click the link in the description and join your other intelligent brothers who understand that there really is only one winning move in a rigged game, and that is not to play, to go your own way, not to go the gynocentrically programmed and conditioned way, but to go your own self-directed way and relate to women on your own terms. And those terms must have a foundation of self-respect, self-love, and my life is about making me happy, not a fucking woman.
That's what I'm talking about.
Make it so.
Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
God, we should walk away from this.
Hold on. If I were to do this, if I even could do it, I'd need a guarantee. How do I know you can deliver?
You don't. But I can. So, do you want to take a leap of faith? Or become an old man, filled with regret, waiting to die alone?